And good evening, everyone. How is everyone doing? Good afternoon. All of that fun stuff. I need to begin today with an apology, in a way. This feed was set up for everyone in Greenwich Mean Time, and last weekend Greenwich Mean Time folks moved their clocks back, so they do that a week before we do it here in the US. So that sets up a weird thing for the timing of the feed for that changeover. So I want to first thank Simon Carter for, again, reminding me that that's the case. And second, for all you guys who are in the same like daylight savings groove as we are in the US, and we're looking for the feed an hour ago and there was no feed. So here it is. It'll be this way. I think ours is November 5th, so it's this weekend coming up. So we'll be back to normal right away. Yes, as we enter, as what I like to call the Great Darkening. I hope they get rid of it soon, because it's dumb. It's dumb. So let me switch around. I can see people jumping on. Let me switch to, yeah, we'll do a little bit of show and tell. I'll show you the 543s from Monday, since I have a few of them. You've seen one of them, the Jet that we did last week, and then we're going to work on the Bugatti headlight. We started it on Monday, and I thought we'd mess around with it today. So let me switch to this one. Yeah, that's a good one. All right, let me jump on and also say hi to everyone. I just got a message from Tim, and why can't I see this? There we go. And yeah, so I was kind of scrambling, trying to get everything set. There he is. Tim, thank you. Cody, what's up? Simon, there you are, despite DST. Yeah, man, I can't wait till they get rid of that. Holy crow. Dumb, super dumb. Because even, so we live in rural Northeast Ohio. There are a lot of industrial type farms here, a lot of feed farms. And, the daylight savings, what I thought it was, or what I remember it being told to me as, it was originally intended to allow the farmers to have more daylight by kind of goofing around with the clock. Farmers now here, I'm assuming it's everywhere, but farmers here will work well into the night. They plant with GPS. It's crazy. They don't need the sun at all. So, I mean, for that anyway. Maston, what's up? Maston, your painting is finally on its way. Sorry, buddy. Maston won. Tone, what's up, buddy? Tone, that new sweatshirt is amazing, the black and white one. That's coming out awesome. And Tim, of course, if you haven't been following Tim finished up his Persephone painting last night. And you should go check him out on any of his socials. And then, of course, on YouTube, you can actually see him working on it. Tim, that painting is something special. I have a feeling that's going to be a big thing for you as you cycle that around. Dan, I'm sorry I didn't cancel. I mean, I'm not sorry I didn't cancel. I'm glad I didn't cancel, but yeah, it was just dumb. Just dumb that I forgot, but I always forgot, and that's why I have Simon around to straighten me out. All right, real quick. So here is your, or actually it's Eric Williams F15. We did this one last week, so nothing really changed with that other than I put it in the mat. So that's how you get them. They come in the mat. If you haven't got one of these 543s, they all come matted like this, and they come in a little acid-free envelope. And they also come with a certificate of authenticity as well. So it's really neat. These are ready to go into a frame. They have acid-free photo corners on them. So they're not taped in. Again, that's kind of archival way to do it. So you don't have any kind of tape on the actual artwork. You can remove this right out. And that's the idea behind being archival. No acid, no nothing, but also that you can remove it and cause no damage to the painting. That's a big thing too. Oh no, Tim. Yeah, no, that's an easy one, Tim. I think I'm looking forward to see what you enter that in and where it ends up going. And yeah, it's a great painting. What else I got? I did put the shameless self-promoting spam pinned comment at the top. The holiday sale is going on now. It'll go right through the end of the year. And so if you're looking at anything, just make sure you hit that coupon code and that will save you a bundle. Incidentally, I meant to mention this since I just sent out a painting to Ian, our buddy Ian Hart, one 2 weeks ago. And so if you win a 543, I ship that to you as well. Shipping is obviously a lot higher internationally, but it's not so bad on 543. So for instance, well, this is a Brittany Spaniel painting from our buddy Ego. And so for me to mail a 543 insured to most parts of the world where the USPS will ship, for instance, to England, it costs about $17, $18 to ship. So if you want one of these and you're on the fence, or even worse, you go to the website, put it in, and it comes back with like a $40 shipping, just know that I adjusted for whatever the actual shipping is. The website doesn't do a great job at calculating international shipping, but I credit you for whatever the actual shipping is. So here's the Brittany Spaniel. Hope these are in focus. I think these are in focus. Cute puppers. 57 T-Bird. It's that one. And again, I didn't think to grab the. I have an actual 57 painting, the one that's on my business card. I still have that painting, mostly because I can't sell it. There's an issue with it, the actual painting. But in any event, it's a good contrast between what a 543 is and what a full-blown painting is. This is my grizzly bear going after a chrome salmon. So that one came out. There's a lot to this one. So you'll notice that the detail overall, like if you look at his teeth, I really generalized a lot of the detail just to kind of get it in, to give it that impact, but not, I mean, I could have spent hours and hours on this painting. So that one came out. And finally, the violin. So that one came out. I like these close-up instrument paintings. They're fun. Here we go. I also, I got a lot to do. So that's all the 5 for this week. It's rare that I have all 5, which is nice. You know, I'm happy that people like them and people grab them when they win, and they purchase them and all that. But it's unusual for me to have all 5 by the end of the week, which is interesting. All right, I did finish all. We're going to work on the Bugatti because I finished all the 543s for Monday already. And the reason why I pushed it so hard for that is because tomorrow Marge and I are driving to Cincinnati to deliver her painting for the big show she has in the Manifest Gallery in Cincinnati. So one of her big sculptures had gotten into that show, so we're going to deliver tomorrow, which is exciting. So I want to make sure I had all the 543s done. JC, what's up? No, you're right on time, JC. Tim, no. And it's funny, I should have done that. I should have, when I looked up stuff, I should have looked up a Stradivarius, but I did not. And I got caught on another painting doing the same thing a long time ago, and you would have thought I learned my lesson. I did a painting of a saxophone and spent a long time on it. It was neat. Createx had sent me, today's cheers is coffee, by the way. Createx had sent me the very first iteration of the illustration colors back when they were working on them. And they weren't very good. They didn't spray very well, but that's beside the point. But anyway, I wanted to give them the full kind of thing. So I ended up deciding to do just a full painting with it. It's a 16 by 20 painting of a saxophone. I had a bunch of pictures of a saxophone because my friends of mine owned a music store. And I did the painting, came out cool and everything. But later on, I realized or was told that the saxophone that I used for the painting is like a $100 student saxophone. I mean, it's okay in the long run. It's a cool painting and everything, but yeah. I mean, I should have probably grabbed a better saxophone. I did eventually right that wrong. So there's a painting called Crosswind, which you can see on my website. It's in the gallery. And for that one, I used both an expensive flute and an expensive saxophone. So high end. So yeah, I made up for it. All right, so we're going to finish up this headlight today. Right now, this headlight's probably at about the level of what I do for 543. It's got some detail to it. It's got some stuff to it. It looks like what it's supposed to look like, but it's not really quite there yet as far as the details go. So we're gonna kind of pick at this a little bit, and that's what we're gonna do. Well, is this gonna work? Probably gonna work. What else am I missing? No, you guys are rocking. Excellent, excellent. All right, let me that one. Yeah, gives you some light. Okay. You guys are kind of at an extreme angle, but I also want you kind of close, and I don't want to keep bashing the camera with my head, so I will straighten it out a little bit so you guys just see it a little bit more at an angle than it really is. So what I'm going to do is I have the bigger reference photo, but I'm also going to use the smaller reference photo too, which is, well, actually the same size, because this will give me a lot of the information of what I should be able to see, and then I have the bigger photograph right above it, and that has a lot of the more intricate type of details. I don't want to get hung up too much on this photograph because I'll end up putting in too much, so I kind of want to balance it between, you know, what it looks like when it's reduced and also what's really there. So I'll show you what I mean as I get going. Again, there's a lot of green in this headlight because of where the car was sitting. It was sitting on the grass. I'm going to eliminate that. The green anyway. But I will add some color to it. Oh, yeah, Simon, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. It's funny, when I saw it, I immediately thought it was Scott's. I didn't even see your name with it, so you did a really good job on that. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I've seen that before from him. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's on him. And then I got on what Simon's talking about is I randomly started a black and white art group on Facebook, just as a kind of depository for all these 543s that I was painting. And I inadvertently didn't even know it, but it had sent out a bunch of invitations, and the thing just kind of took on a life of its own. So I'm super happy. I don't really do anything with it other than post and look at all the pictures that everyone's posting. But I like that it's kind of doing its own thing. I did get this week, I got my first Facebook violation type notice, and when you have a group, it doesn't affect the group, you know, the group or the group owner. They actually still go after the person putting up offensive stuff, you know, some sort of porn thing, and Facebook immediately took it down, the post. But it was kind of funny that it's now, you know, crossed the threshold of the attention of all the porn people and the spammers. So we have to keep a closer eye on that, I think, in the future. So thank you if you happened to catch that before they took it down. Oh, well. And that's it, Simon. If it's black and white porn, that'd be different, right? Tone, it's just called black and white art. So, yeah, what I'll do is I'll do a post at some point on one of my other socials, just kind of announcing it, because I never did. I just kind of threw it up there. So yeah, so that sweatshirt, for instance, would be awesome. And people have been great in it. You know, even when people have like black and white but a little bit of color, they're all apologetic, and you could take this down if it doesn't count and all this stuff. And I'm like, nah, you're good. So it's been a lot of fun. Anyway, all right, let's get to it. So I think what I'm going to do, since I started with the airbrush and then I moved on to the paintbrush, I think I'm going to work more with the paintbrush on this. This could go in a lot of different ways, and let me show you the way I'm kind of looking at it. So I could airbrush some more on this and get some of the tighter airbrush details, but I think since I'm missing a lot of, like, see the really tiny vertical lines against these horizontals, those lines really make up a lot of these shapes. And I just have it kind of fogged in right now with the airbrush. So I also have like these horizontal lines down here a little bit too thick. So now this is when I start to get into really, like, you know, refining this thing and pushing it beyond. Like I said, again, this would be good for a 543 because it didn't take me too long. But, you know, if I spent, you know, a zillion hours on the little grate of the front end of this thing, I can't just fluff through the headlight, or any part of it, really. All right. What else am I missing? We're good. The other thing, too, if you caught yesterday's Open Studio, we are close on that one. I'm actually even closer than and so I pre-recorded 2 Open Studios yesterday's and next week's. I probably only have 2 or 3 more, and then the painting's done, which is awesome. It's been quite a haul. I've talked to Mark down at Source Gallery in Lisbon, and I'm going to go down next week and order up a frame for it. So with any luck, the frame will come in before I'm done with the painting, because that'll be a good thing to show, the actual framing process as well, because that's the idea behind the Open Studio. All right, I think I'm going to start by warming up, and I'm going to warm up with the reflections that are in the side of this. And warm up, it's more warm up of my eyes than anything. There's a lot of nitpicky stuff that's going on in here. So there's a lot of really clear reflections that are in the side of this thing. So I'll start by kind of giving my eyes a chance to kind of get going on this side of it, and then I'll go from there. So yeah, I'll use that. I've got some reducer in here, but it's got some red in it from one of the other paintings, so I don't want to, it's not a whole lot of red, so it's not going to make a difference. See how pink that's reducer right there. I was just being, I won't be that lazy. I was going to say I'm being super lazy by I didn't clean out this first reservoir, which is usually where I keep my reducer. So instead of cleaning that one out, I just put it in the one next to it, and I proceeded to get that dirty. So we'll clean it out. So to clean out this palette, this wet palette comes with this little paint reservoir thing. It's really neat. It's got magnets on it too, so it actually sticks to the front of this thing, which is nice. So what I do is just take a little bit of rubbing alcohol, drop it in, and it just cleans it right out for the most part. I say that because I think I've mentioned it before. This middle one, I put Autoborn Sealer White in it, and I can't get it out. I've tried everything. So I've even tried Restore, and the Restore started melting the plastic. So I'm like, nope, that's going to stay like that forever. Thanks, Tim. Thank you, Tim. Yeah, that's a big thing for me. I mean, I know everyone has their own thing, and I know there's a lot of people that use those brushes, and there's a place for them, I guess. But my biggest fear with those, and I kind of touched on it in the video, my biggest fear is that someone brand new buys those because it's the first thing that pops up on Amazon or whatever. This is just Pyro Red I have in the brush right now. And anyone who's airbrushes knows, or has tried it, knows, that it's not something you just pick up and you're instantly good at. I mean, I'm sure there are those people out there, but for the most of us, that's not the way it goes. So to then compound that with a super cheap airbrush that's going to give you all kinds of problems, I'm just afraid that people will buy those brushes, try them, see all these people doing all this amazing stuff, and say, well, I couldn't get it to work, so it's me, and I'm not going to do this anymore. So that's it. But, again, and it's like I said in the video, it's one of those things. If you give a pro golfer a garbage set of clubs, they're still going to play better than most everyone else, even with those. They're going to make those clubs look great. And then, a guy like me goes and buys those clubs thinking, wow, that, worked for him and or her. And it's like, not the same. Like driving a Yugo. Tim, there's a great channel I follow. The main channel is Donut, like the donut you eat, but they're all mechanics. And the video that actually I found them from, it's Real Mechanic Stuff is the name of their other channel. But anyway, the guys at Donut, they did a whole review on a Yugo, and it's brilliant. It's fantastic. I remember Yugos when they came out, and I don't remember them being as god-awful cheap as they are. Simon started with a cheap setup and it sucked. Bought an Eclipse within a month. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's funny too, because I know, like I think Hobby Lobby has the Eclipse for 150 bucks. I know, Tim, I think the straight out of the box Patriot 105 is about 150-ish. So I know that seems like a lot when you can get an airbrush and, a bunch of nozzles and maybe even paint for like 25 bucks. And I don't know, man. Like if you want to just get one in your hands and see if it's like just something for you, those cheap ones are good, but I worry. And it's not like that isn't, and that's why I did the tool comparison in the beginning, because it's not like that mentality hasn't found its way into every single thing in our lives now. It's like, I want to do something, so I'll go on, one of these big sites, and there it is, but it's, for 5% of what a real thing goes for. So I'll get that and try it out, and it's like, all right, but be ready. Now I get it, for Iwata is the one I showed in the video. A lot of the cost of their airbrush is their marketing, their packaging. I get that, and that's what brings the price up on those things. Not, all the way up, but it does have an effect on the price. But still, the quality of those brand name things are so worth it. I would rather pay a little bit extra for a little bit of extra packaging, knowing that I'm getting, a good product. And that's what it is. I mean, I'm not saying that, they sell their brushes because their packaging is so good. That's not what I mean. But they like other companies care about their brand, and that stuff doesn't come out of nowhere. They have to spend money on packaging and all kinds of other fun stuff. There was an interesting story from Iwata that I remember from a while ago. One of the things they had was like this double packaging on there, mostly on the Eclipses. And the Eclipse brushes, like Simon was just saying, it's at the time when they came out, it was an entry-level brush for Iwata, which is saying a lot. It's a really super nice brush, but it wasn't what the high performance series was, or the microns. It was designed as their entry level, which is still really high. So people bought them because they were an Iwata, but they were less money than everything else in the Iwata line. So they started dealing with a lot of companies like brick and mortar stores, like Hobby Lobby and things like that. And Hobby Lobby, well, I use Hobby Lobby. I'm not sure that they were the ones, but a lot of these big time brick and mortar art supply places have these specific things that they require of their vendors and their packaging. They want the stuff on the shelf and they want it to look really good. So Iwata had to add a plastic sleeve over the already really nice packaging that they offered their airbrushes in. And of course, all that stuff adds up, and eventually this entry-level brush started creeping up in price, and everyone's like, why, you have to put all this packaging on it? And that was it. It was just part of the requirement to get it out there as hard and wide as they did. They had to kind of go with what was required of them. So, and I use that because now that doesn't matter as much, especially with the Amazon specials. You get an airbrush in a cardboard box that has nothing on it. So that's all taken out, and then that's how it is. So I don't know where that rant came from, or that soapbox, or whatever that was, but sorry about that. Sorry, not sorry. There we go. Brad Mummery, what's up? It's kind of a filter. If you struggle through a couple of weeks of dots and daggers or lines with a POS, you still want to try again. It's time for a good brush. Yeah, Simon, that's the argument, That is absolutely the argument, and it works with tools as well. I have a job I got to do. I may not ever do this job again, so why would I spend a lot of money on a really high-end tool for this? I'm just going to buy something cheap. And I get that, and that's awesome. But what I worry about with airbrushes especially is artists that are good at what they do and get on there and say, this brush is awesome. It's only $10. You know, you could airbrush with this too. It's scary. It's a dangerous slope. All right, so hopefully you guys, I'm doing a lot of talking and shocker and not a lot of explaining, but hopefully you guys kind of see what's going on. All I'm doing is just kind of rolling around the outside reflections of this and just kind of messing around, and again, giving my eyes a chance to get rolling. Now, I have been painting all day. I like I said, I finished up the last of the 543s for Monday this morning, but then I have to put them all in the system. So so I spent about 2 hours doing that, and you know, 2 hours away from painting, your eyes start to relax, and you know, they're not looking the same way as if you were when you were painting. So just giving myself a chance to get back up to speed before I start digging into this really confusing part, which is the reflections of the lens. So just doing things like, you know, straightening out the roundness of this, and then, you know, picking at these details. There's some airbrushing that needs to go in on this too, but again, I'll just kind of work with the paintbrush first and see what happens. What do we got? They put the eclipse out afterwards. What? Oh, I think I missed the beginning of that tone. So yeah, that's the way it went. The line extension on the Iwatas, the Eclipse series came out, and then the Revolution series, which was designed to replace the entry level, since the Eclipse took on a life of its own, and all of a sudden that was not entry level. You had all these t-shirt artists using the BCS like mad. The CS, thanks to guys like Craig Fraser, became this like workhorse of a brush. So they needed something a little bit more entry level, so that they introduced the Revolution, and now the Neos are out there as the entry level. So it's always the scary part about, you know, a company when they have to start, or not have to, but they end up doing a lot of line extension, which is, you know, adding models to your line to always have something new, and that can be dangerous for a company, because obviously you have to stock everything. You have to have parts for it. You have to have the service and the backing for all these new products. And if it just hits critical mass, the company can get into some trouble with that. So not that Iwata is doing that, or Iwata is doing that, or any company really. It's nice that that's why brushes kind of disappear from the line. You know, they don't have everything they used to have. As these new brushes come out, sometimes they have to replace lesser selling brushes. I believe like the HPA, that cupless airbrush, which is actually on the front page of my YouTube channel. I think that is one of those examples of one of the brushes that they had made, and it was on the books for a long time, and I think it's just kind of found that the sales weren't kind of what could support manufacturing the brush, and I believe that brush is now in the extinct column for Iwata, as it is with most other companies too. I mean, I think Badger still has their 100 with just a slot on the top. Fingernail artists love them. They use them a lot because it's, you know, there's no cup on it. Do I even have one here? I don't have one out. Because the A was the only one I had. Too many SKUs, that's exactly it. Yeah, Tim. Yeah, Simon, and that comes down to that whole other, you know, thing about you know, using a brush and reducing it in relationship to the thickness that you like to spray, the paint you like to spray. That's why the CS works so well. You can run that at a higher viscosity and still get crazy detail out of it. So for those who aren't familiar with what we're talking about, this is an Eclipse CS. It's a gravity feed. Mine has a 0.5 in it. I swapped it out, but normally this is a 0.3 in it. It's just a good solid gravity feed brush. And again, I remember when those were well under $100 a piece. In fact, I know this is me being old. I remember when the HPC, which was their mainline, high performance detail brush, I remember when that was 99 bucks. Those days are way gone. All right, what did I miss? Yeah, the Eclipse has that self-centering nozzle, which was a game changer, because most of the detail brushes didn't have that. So they actually have that thing where it's a two-part nozzle. I can't show you because I have a BCS nozzle in that, which is one piece. Brad asks, on your Micron, do you paint the finest details with the nozzle guard on? The needle, you mean the needle guide, this thing in the back? I mean the needle guard, needle cap, this guy back here. So no, as soon as it's one of the nice things about the Micron now. Let me refocus this so you can see it. You have this little threaded end on the back of the brush, so you can not lose this immediately like I normally do. But anyway, this little needle guide or needle guard, needle cap, just sits on the end though. So that it's got this, well, focus again. Come on, man. So it's got the little crown cutouts in it, so it disperses the air a little bit better. But no, as soon as with this brush, as soon as I go to use it, I take that off. For those who are newer, its only job is to protect the needle. So it actually sprays better without it on because the air is able to just kind of disperse away. But obviously now the needle is exposed, so there's a much better chance of bumping that and damaging it. But for the performance of the brush, it's worth it. So this is a needle cap. This here is a nozzle cap, and this is what directs the air around the nozzle. And the brush won't work. Well, it will work without it, but it'll just spit, if you want to do gravel or stuff like that. So, Lewis, what's up, buddy? The 80s were good years. I agree with that, Tone. A lot of good stuff happening. Look at that filthy needle. I know, when you're actually like microscopically close to this thing now. I just actually picked it off while we were talking and I was saying good morning. But yeah, this is, this is actually the C. This isn't even the B. I thought I grabbed the B. So that's a Micron C. Cool brush. And then, where is it? It's way up here. It's not way up here, it's just over here. And then this is, Tim will be familiar with this. This is the Extreme 105, the arrow. So, and you can see how far the needle sticks out in this one. So it's a fun brush too. And also, it's immediately, Tim knows, I immediately took off the trigger and replaced it with the shorter trigger. Because I don't want to say anything bad about the high roller trigger, but it's definitely a personal preference thing. People who use it love it. People who don't use it can't understand it. Just adds a totally different fulcrum to the airbrush and the trigger. So I understand why people use it, but I cannot get it down. It's a totally alien feeling thing. And then, it's funny because on the other, a lot of people who use it will say, oh, it's excellent for detail, because it gives you more control. What it is what I'm talking about is the trigger on the top of the brush. This guy here. So on that Badger 105, it comes with a much taller trigger, probably about this tall. And the idea is there's more fulcrum, there's more travel, so that gives you more control. That's the idea. And I'm sure, if you have that sensibility, there is. But on the other side of that, you have guys like Drew Blair who sell a shorter trigger than this and say exactly the same thing. It just gives you more control. So I think it really boils down to your own personal preference with stuff like that. But that's like hot rodding a car or a bike. It's like someone wants this and other people say that stinks and other people love that. And it just, that part of it's endless. And I love that. I really do. I love when people have their own, oh, that was a bad move. have their own like take on like what's good on a brush and what they love and what changes they made to it and all that. I get a kick out of that. You got to start with good bones. You got to have a good brush to start. And Tim, yeah, the needle cap comes right off for me. Still waiting for Micron Double D. Simon, you're still hooked on the black and white porn page. The high roller trigger was a crazy idea. Yeah, Tim, I mean, I gave it a shot, man. I did. But I was freaked out about wrecking the needle. I imagine replacing that will be a few more bucks on my Patriot. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the other side of the Iwata stuff. Everything is more expensive. Everything is more expensive on it. So I've gotten better with my microns though. In the past, like if I damaged a needle, I'll still straighten it. But I'm more prone now to just ordering a new needle. Certainly, I mean, there's not much you can do with the nozzle. If I screw up the nozzle, I got to replace it. But I really love the way that thing works out of the box, and I don't want to screw with it. So, if you start getting into straightening needles, sometimes they're not exactly the same as they were when you got it out of the box, and it changes the performance. It doesn't necessarily make it like terrible or infinitely better when you make minor changes, but what I find is I just really love the way it comes set up out of the box. So I'll just end up purchasing a new needle. And yeah, the nozzles in those brushes last for a really long time unless you do something to them. Like the only reason I've had to replace nozzles on either one of those microns is because I've dropped them. So they do wear out. I mean, I have old brushes that, those nozzles get flared at the end from just constant use, and you do have to replace them that way, but for the most part, it's pretty bulletproof. Again, and that's my $117 pair. $117. My 117-year-old pliers. You know what I mean? It's like they're built to not crap out on you, and I am super happy with that. And again, I hope I stressed it enough. It's like, as far as the manufacturers go, yeah, in a way, do they want to make something that lasts? Like my SB is 35 years old. You would think that you buy an airbrush and one airbrush lasts you for your entire career, and the company's going to go out of business because people buy one and done. But if you're anything like me, man, it's like I can't wait to get another one. So I just like that I'm not replacing them. I'm just getting something different. So I never understood that. I say, yeah, I just go out and with those cheap ones. I'm like, I use it for for a couple months, and then I just order more of them. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I just want the thing to work. Because as I said before, man, when things crap out, they always crap out at the worst possible time for me. And I don't need that in my life. This is fun. I like this. Brad, have a good one, buddy. Thanks for dropping in. What am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. This is the fun part about this. I love paintings like this and open studio, the Harley and all that. There's no like I can literally just bounce around. It isn't like, and there's no one standing on my head for this either. Like, I do want to get these done. Like I said, I'd kind of in my head well, that's not right either. I kind of had in my head that all 6 of these were going to be done in 23. However, that's looking less and less possible since I still have 2 more to go and it's already November. But still, I like that I can just kind of like float around this thing and not worry about it. If I want to work on this part, I can work on this part. If I want to do something different, I can do something different. If I even want to put it aside, and not work on it at all. It's nice when it's your own stuff. Lewis, this year would have been the year for me to go. I had the polisher from Rupees that I just posted today. That's at SEMA. I really wanted to get to that opening SEMA party at Hogs and Heifers with Mickey Harris and all the other artists. And then I also have a piece of art at the Car Rep booth too. So this would have been the year to go. It just timing didn't work out for me. I ended up heading back to Massachusetts the week before, and as far as travel goes, that kind of took care of me going out to Vegas. But I love the pictures. People seem to be having a great time, which is good. We need that show. We need that show to be strong again. And like everything, took a hit after COVID or during COVID. And I know a lot of the big companies still haven't really signed back on to do most of these shows, never mind just SEMA, but we need all these companies to jump back in because we rely on them for materials, for product, for like airbrushes, for instance, So we need that industry strong. Especially the automotive industry, because the automotive industry to airbrushing is like NASA is to your cell phone. So the automotive industry has so many eyes on it that it's always pushed things like airbrushes and paints and things like that. Now that you have the miniature, like the Warhammer figures and the scale modeling, which is just exploded. So that's great. That's pushing airbrushing too. There's no other really way to do that kind of thing. So all those industries are fantastic for us, because even if you're not in that industry, even if you're not in that type of painting, that's what's really pushing all this stuff. The companies innovating and still putting out new products and keeping the prices low and all that fun stuff. You need a group of painters that are really pushing it and getting the companies to do those things. So automotive has always been that for airbrushing and spray guns and that kind of stuff. But it's funny because it's always, and what I love about airbrushing is it's so versatile. There's always a different segment that's doing that suddenly pops into the limelight. For a little while it was makeup, all the makeup shows that were rolling around, and all these artists were using airbrushing for their makeups, which is still going on. But you had all these reality shows, Face Off and whatever the other one was. And then in, like Tone was saying, in the 80s, everyone who had an airbrush in their hand was asked to do t-shirts. T-shirt airbrushing in the 80s and 90s was gigantic. And you could see that in the airbrushes that were produced. They push all those, and that's still good. Like I said, it still keeps everything rolling for everyone else. In the 50s, it was photo retouching. So there always seems to be something that pops up. And I think what's nice about, as far as the longevity of the airbrush itself, it's still really the only way to do this. I mean, it's the only way to, it's the most controlled, refined way of putting a liquid onto something else. Paintbrushes are great. The paintbrushes will never go away, but nothing will be able to do what the airbrush does the same way that the airbrush does it. So it can't be replaced, you know what I mean? Which is nice as far as a piece of technology. Very similar to saying, like a screwdriver can't be replaced. They'll come out with new screwdrivers. They'll get better and better, but there'll always be a place for them. I feel that way about the airbrush. Individual like styles of painting with the airbrush, they come and go all the time. So again, photo retouching isn't even a thing anymore with airbrushing. Hell, so is commercial art pretty much. It's all digital, but still, I mean, the airbrush endures. So. Ooh, that was too much there, but oh well. Again, the fun part about this is, Tim had a great question last night, and it's one of my favorite questions, and it's, how do you know when your painting is done. And he asked it to the general pop, which was nice. So for me, when the last mistake is fixed, then I know it's probably done. Like, this bottom edge is all wonky right now. It's all messed up. So I know that's not done. So when I look at a painting and, I'm to the point where I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm pretty happy. There's a few things about this that I changed, but maybe that change would be something that would involve a major, like, overhaul of the painting. Like if I came up with like a composition that I want to change a little bit, that means redoing the whole painting. That's all I'm talking about. I'm talking about the, the minor stuff. That's how I know that, painting of mine is done. And it's nice to say that, and it's easy to say that when people ask, because it's pretty straight ahead, when the last mistake is fixed, then it's done. So I guess that's my answer for that. I didn't get to answer last night because I was trying to be quiet. So I really had the volume down, so I didn't get to hear a lot of what was going on at the very end of Tim's feed. But when I rewatched it today, I saw it. I'm like, yes, I love that question. Yeah, exactly, Tim. Yeah, I agree. There's so many things that the airbrush can do that other tools have a difficult time with. And again, I'll say it again and again. That's true with every single tool, If, airbrush can't do what a paintbrush can do. It can do some of the things a paintbrush can do, just like a paintbrush can do some of the things an airbrush can do, but it can't do all of them. So there you go. So there'll always be a place for all of it. Again, as long as we keep buying stuff. So if you get into it, don't be afraid to buy different kind of airbrushes and try new paints, and support those companies that are producing this stuff, because that's the way it stays viable and keeps going. And I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it again, rolling back to those cheap, knockoff brushes. When you buy those, you're not really doing much for the industry, because if the popularity of airbrushing tails off, and those companies, the manufacturing companies that are producing those nameless crap airbrushes, understand that there is not as much of a demand, they will move on their manufacturing to some other cheap crap thing that they can build, and they'll just go on to something else. A company like Badger or Pache or Wada or Grex or all those, Harder Steenbeck, all the big established names, that's all they do. That's what they do. If airbrush wanes, they're not going to be doing that anymore. They're not just going to, Grex is a different bit of an example because they also make other stuff. But still, you know what I mean. So yeah, so support those companies that are really, kind of keeping us going as far as this stuff. This has been all soap boxes today. We got all kinds of soap. We're going to be squeaky clean. Yeah, so anyone on there, Tim asked that question yesterday, so post or put in the comments how you feel about when your paintings are done. It's one of my favorite questions because it's the hardest one to answer. Yeah, Simon, and Simon did it right. So the micron comes all matched up from the factory. So the right way to do it, if you crack your nozzle in this brush, is to suck it up and buy the entire head system. So it's from here up, you buy everything. And if you're thinking about one of these brushes, like I say all the time, it's like buying a Ferrari. So if you have your Ferrari and you pull too close to the curb and you whack your wheels, the wheels are violently expensive. So the head of this brush is about the same price as most other brushes, just the head. So you do end up paying, more for it. But again, I will if I'm still around in 35 years, that brush that I just showed you is still going to be working the way it was when I got it. So that's, as my good friend Keith Hansen says, when it comes to clothing, it's dollar per wear. It's like, yeah, you might spend a lot on it, but how much you're going to get out of it, really. So I've switched to white here. So I'm just going to, again, Just refining the circle. Tim, if you're still here, who was it classically that could draw a perfect circle? Was it Raphael? I remember in one of my classes, someone, one of the instructors was talking about a classic artist. It could have been Da Vinci, but I don't think it was. But could just like draw like a nearly perfect circle, and that's what, for me, it's just bouncing back and forth on this until I get it as perfect as possible. I certainly can't do it in one shot, but again, that's how I know when that part's done. Yeah, it always does, exactly. There you go. Thank you, Tim. I knew you would know. I knew you would know. No, I knew you would know. All right, back to white here. So I'm just kind of cleaning this up, making sure I got this as close to as possible. So you guys actually didn't get the headlight demo today. You got the chrome demo, which is also fun. And again, you guys are close enough. But as I get this done, normally I remove background reflections, but the reflections in the top of this highlight, which are like other cars and things in the background, is so nice. And the way it defines the back of this, or what you can see as it rolls over, I just left everything in. It's just, I like that dark, that dark kind of, I don't know, whatever it is back there. Simon, got to run downstairs and get a beer. Don't do anything when I'm gone. Simon, I love you. That's awesome, man. I am not drinking beverages today because I got to run around tonight or when I'm done with this. So I will join you in a cheers of coffee. All right, this is fun too. Since we're up close and personal, let me refocus here. I'm going to show you how much I use these brushes. So this is again, Winsor & Newton Series 7 watercolor brush. And even though I rinse this out and move it around, and every once in a while paint will build up until you get this neat little collar of paint by the ferrule. So you have to kind of clean that off. It's kind of like tip dry for a paintbrush. There we go. Much better. Perfect circle painters. I love it. There's a little bit of airbrushing that's going to go on this, but I'll do that last. Because it's one of those things that if I get all these paintbrush details in, then I just have to really lightly hit it with the airbrush and it's done. If I go and hit that first and then I got to do a bunch of other stuff, then I'll have to re-hit it with the airbrush. I don't want that. And on Monday we did all you can't see it, it's down below, but we did all this background shadow from the car. So that's really important to get that done at this point. So now I just have the car to do. For instance, it doesn't really have the same effect up here because there's no shadow behind the headlight. But imagine doing all this work on the headlight and then having to put the shadow in. I would have to make sure this edge is completely held down. And I don't know, with this ampersand board, the magnets don't work. So I'd really have to make sure that I didn't get any underspray on this. But now all this is done. So when I do all the suspension, I'm done. I don't have to worry about it. Again, if you were here Monday, I wasn't totally sold that this is dark enough yet. But adding a touch, just dropping the value a little bit while all this is painted is not the same as painting it all in. So that's kind of a good example of why, we'd get that done, all the shadow stuff beforehand. I got some red in that too, because you start to see the fender. Or as we say in New England, the fender. It's happening. I know I still can't hear it, so I know I do it a lot. So I still have a lot of Boston floating around. But man, when I go home like a couple of weeks ago, like last week or whatever it was, that's all I can hear. When people's when they're talking, I'm like, what? How come I never noticed that before? All right, so I'm going to grab a little bit of pink because I have some reflections in the headlight here of this fender here, so I'm going to start to put that in. But the red, even though it's opaque, in the brush it tends to just darken up first before, you have to put a lot of paint on before you get to saturation, and then, you know, it just means a lot more paint. So I'm going to kind of start it with like white or pink, and then I'll tint it red to kind of get it in there. Yeah, especially my mom. My mom grew up in Boston, in the North End, and she still has a lot of it. And she lived in Texas. My parents moved to Texas for the end of their careers. Both their companies, or my dad's company moved, and then my mom got a job down there. So they were down there for over 15 years. Never lost her accent. I think the artists who developed at a super young age, it's similar to the kids reading super early. It's a great head start, but does not mean much in the grand scheme of the artist's career. Yeah, I totally agree with that, Tim. In fact, the argument is, you know, someone starting anything later has more experience learning, and also just maybe has much more motivation. You know, a little kid with music lessons, you have to drag them kicking and screaming. You know, yeah, they start when they're younger and they have more time to get it down, but you know, an adult who takes music lessons, they're just more vested. Astral, what's up? Oh, Astral. So I did that with the air control valve that's on this brush. I'll do it real quick because I have paint in one of these brushes, so I can do it. No, I don't. Hold on. Oh, wow, that was a good doobie. I cleaned out all my brushes. That's nice. I will put paint in one of these brushes then. Okay. So there are a couple ways that you can get this done. If you have a brush or like this is the Grex Quick Connect, which has this little air valve built into it. So it's a quick connect fitting, and it just screws into the hose. This is the Grex hose too, which I love so much. So anyway, so it's connector and then this little air valve here. Some airbrushes have them built in. Tim, where's your Patriot arrow? Oh, here it is. So some airbrushes have that air valve already in there. Tim, I also stole your spring idea. Thank you. Such a good idea. So in any event, what this does is this restricts the flow of air. So it's different than your regulator. Your regulator reduces the amount of air pressure. This just reduces how much of that air gets through. So it's still at the same pressure, but there's a lot less of it. That's what it does. So what I can do with it is normally this brush would spray, wait for the paint to start, there we go. So normally this would spray a really, you know, fine mist like that. But as I drop this air pressure down, I just turn this knob. You can hear the air kind of fade away. So as I drop it low enough, what'll happen is there won't be enough air to atomize the paint, so it ends up just spitting it out in little dots like this. That's totally not focused. Guys, sorry. Try that again. Here we go. So then it just spits the paint out. What's nice about doing it this way is you can be really, really controlled. Like you can really dial this in so that you can get, you know, that stipple effect just about anywhere you want. You could do a whole painting instead of doing stipple like with a, you know, pen. With a good brush, you can do it the same way, which is nice, but a lot faster. You know, you're not kind of throwing that in. So the way I did the asphalt is there's black, gray, and white, and I just alternate that stipple to get that to work. The other way to do it is, speaking of the nozzle cap, you can remove this nozzle cap, and then what that does, I'll refocus on the brush so you can see it. So now the nozzle of the brush is exposed and the needle, but you don't have, the airbrush doesn't have the capacity to form that air around the needle without the nozzle cap. So now the air just comes out, and what happens is when you use the brush like this, I'll increase the pressure again. Again, you get this, hold on. Ooh, come on. There we go. More air pressure. There we go. So you get this same kind of stippling pattern. It's a lot more coarse. You don't get the same kind of refinement as lowering the air pressure, but it still works on a bigger scale. So those are the couple ways to do it. There's another way too. Let me put the cap back on so we don't run the risk of blowing up this brush. Astral, geez, making me all jealous having a turbo. I gotta buy one. I know they don't make them anymore, but I'll find one. I had one. I actually had one, and I ended up getting rid of it because I bought it when they were still making them, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not using this brush. It's silly for me to have it, and I got rid of it, and I wish I hadn't. So the other way to do it is, this is the t-shirt trick. I'm using an X-Acto blade just because this brush is so small. But all you do is just kind of spray the paint at the end of the whatever you're spraying off of, and then it just kind of spits the paint off the end of the item. So usually t-shirt artists who use like pop sticks or medicine, those tongue depressors, but that works too. Again, this is a difficult thing to control on a really super fine scale, but it still works the same way. If I'm doing a whole background and that's all I got, it'll work great. But if I need any kind of control with it, then it's not the best choice in the world. So hopefully that makes sense. I also have some cool 3D printed stuff from Mike's Brush. He builds I know I can't find it. I was just thinking if I could find it. He builds a little, or makes a 3D printed thing that attaches to the front of the airbrush that does that on a bigger scale like t-shirts, which is really cool. Now what I miss. James, what's up, buddy? After all the talk of replacing parts, what could go wrong? I know, no kidding. Simon, what really could have gone wrong with that demo right there is when I took the nozzle cap off, it would have rolled off the bench and ended up somewhere in Narnia, and I'd have to reorder one. Same thing happens when you get older. There you go. All right, so, actually that worked out well. In fact, since I have the black in the brush now, let me focus this up again. So what I'm looking at is there's a little bit of a fade at the bottom of this red right here. So I don't want to get, this brush is good. This brush can do it, but why take the chance if you don't have to? So I'm going to grab one of these little templates here, and I'm just going to block off the background around the headlight. Again, it's definitely one of those cool story bro if you can pull it off without a template, but too much can go wrong, Like that. I'm in love with this already. This is good. There's still a lot of, like, here, this side of the headlight is going to kind of be defined by the tire behind it, but I think I want to resolve the roundness of this edge first. I know I kind of left off and didn't do the red in those little highlights yet. I think I'm going to airbrush those too, but I don't feel like putting red in the brush, so I'll work on this edge right now. Nozzle caps, 10mm sockets, guitar picks, and that other sock, Simon. I'll add that to the list. What I really should do, since I have, so this Micron B, this Micron B is a new brush. I got this just over a year ago. Yeah, there's a great story that I'll tell you about this brush, but not right now because it's emotional, so I'll skip on that one. The other one too, this brush here, the Micron C that I showed, this is another one that means a whole ton to me. This was actually sent to me from Iwata. They sent this brush to me, which is the first airbrush that I mean, you think you've been doing this long enough and doing whatever, and people sending you all kinds of stuff all the time. It's not like that. So this is the first brush after doing this for this long that was sent to me by Iwata, which meant a whole lot. And I got another one for you since I have it out. This brush here, this Patriot Arrow that I just showed you, this one was sent to me by Ken at Badger, which meant a whole lot to me. So again, you'd think it happens all the time, but it doesn't. In fact, this one was super special because Ken had my name put in it so that I wouldn't lose it. He actually said to me he did that because what happened was he sent me a Patriot 105. I liked it. I did a painting for him, and then I ended up sending the brush back to him framed with the painting. So he sent me that one with my name engraved on it so I wouldn't send it back. It's fun. But where was I going with that? Oh, that's where I was going with that. So I do have another Micron C and another Micron B that I've used forever. They're older brushes. Now that I have those two newer ones, what I really should do is send the older ones into Iwata and have them run through them all and service them and make them new again. That would be crazy to have, you know, two of each. Okay, yeah, we're working on this. So what I'm going to do, this tire, so tires for me, you think tires, you know, black, but they're really not. Generally, tires in most instances are really dark brown, lumber, if you will. So, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start setting up that edge of the headlight, but I'm going to use the tire color because that way when I go to do the tire, obviously it'll blend right back in. So now the back and forth starts. And that is just to keep doing this until this edge of the headlight is really nice and round. Now, you know, could I cut out a template? Honestly, the limitations for me cutting, there's a chance that it'll come out perfectly smooth, but there's a chance I'll, you know, mess up the cut too, and then I'm just right back where I started. So for this type of stuff, it's easier for me to just start painting it, working it over and over again until it's right. Same thing with a template. Could I find a template, you know, pre-cut template that's already this shape? Maybe, but again, if it's not exactly perfect, I'm going to have to fix it anyway. So we're just going to paint it from scratch, and then it'll be done, and I won't have to worry about it. Yeah, Ken is an amazing guy. That was at a great point. It was. You know, it was right around the whole weird COVID thing, and actually it was right before it. And it was just really nice kind of going back and forth with them. And like I said, I had used the Sotar back when it came out, and you know, I was more of an Iwata guy. I just like the feel of the Japanese brushes, so it never really took off with me. And then when they came out with all the new extreme brushes, I ended up, like I said, getting the 105, and I really liked it for where they were trying to fit it into the lineup. It really made a lot of sense. And then of course the extreme arrow came out after that. Or they came out at the same time, but I wasn't aware of the arrow until after the 105. I think, Tim, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think Tim has a few of those left, of the ones that are all specially modified by him. So they have that cool spring in it that mine has that I put on after the fact. And Tim does some other things to it as well to make it even better than it is right out of the box, which is pretty cool. So you can check in with Tim on that to see if he has any of those right now. Oh, he is. Oh, Bobby, what's up, buddy? Oh, okay. So Bobby, the difference is coming between the two, between YouTube members and Patreon members. So Patreon members right now get an additional video every week, and it actually is on YouTube. So the YouTubers don't get that. The YouTube members get the 10% discount on anything in the store all the time, although you don't want to use that right now because the holiday special is bigger than your general coupon. But the YouTube members and the Patreon members both get 10% discount on the store all the time. So that's the holiday thing. I mean, not the holiday thing, that's an everyday thing. The YouTube members also get their their fancy emojis and their cool colors. And I have one more special thing coming up for both that I'll get into once I get it all set up. And then as it grows, YouTube allows me to do different things with the members. So that's going to be fun too. So the more members I get, the more kind of perks open up available, that are available through YouTube. So that'll be fun too. As the Patreon thing, the reason I set up the Patreon thing is as things grow, I want a place for, the people who are really like, in the family, in the community, that I'll always be able to keep in touch with. So that kind of is a reason for coming up with that. As things grow, I want to make sure I keep everything, where it should be. So that is the Reader's Digest version of that. I'm super happy. I thought I was just going to be warming up on the back of that light, but I'm feeling good about it, like the whole thing. Oh, thanks, Tim. So Patreon is for Facebook. Okay, so Bobby, no, Patreon is a support type of thing that helps me out across the board. So if you're a Patreon member, you'll notice it's a little bit more. That's what is going to drive all of the content. It right now I spend, what do I spend, a day and a half doing all the 543s and setting it all up. Then all the content takes at least another day. So really it's working out to be about half the week now is all content driven instead of just art. So what the Patreon really does is allow me to continue to do that across all social platforms. The YouTube membership is, the YouTube membership is really just perks for YouTubers. Even though, like I said, the Patreon members get a extra video on YouTube that no one else gets. But yeah, that's how that works. Ah, thanks, Simon. Yeah, it's a blast, right? Just kind of shitting around, and that's, like I said, I can spend hours, and I'll look up at the clock and it'll be like 7 o'clock at night. I would have spent 12 hours working on a painting. It's just so easy to kind of just get lost and have fun with it, and it is seriously therapy for me. Seriously, like I said it. I don't know if I'm feeling overly schmoopy today, but yeah, the artwork and feeling like I'm in control of something, meaning this kind of stuff, like I feel like I got a fairly decent grip on it. That sense of control, and most people can relate. Like you have something in your life that is within your control. You do it well. The rougher the time I'm going through, the more I tend to focus on those bits of control for sanity. So like when I was going through some really nasty stuff personally, it was just those moments that I could just spend with my art that just like really helped focus me and get me through. So again, it doesn't have to be art. It could be anything. Everyone has something that they can kind of just let the shit off their shoulders. You know what I mean? Just take a break and focus on something that they know when they start it, it's going to be okay. It's going to be in their control and everything's fine. It was just such a huge, like, it got me through. It just got me through. And I find I do that a lot. When my dad passed away, I spent a lot more time painting, even more than I do now. And again, there's a million examples throughout my life of, just needing that kind of control to kind of recenter and get things set. You hear it all the time. Some people are like, I need to go fishing, or I need to drive my car. I just need to, or I'm bike riding, or I feel this way when I go to the gym, or whatever it is. It's that just sense of personal control of the situation to just kind of calm everything down. It's amazingly important. Yeah, 100%, Tim. In fact, I've met a lot of great artists that have the most amazing artwork and the most amazing stories that go with their paintings, and I almost feel guilty listening to them, thinking that I'm just painting cars. I mentioned this at I was doing a talk, and the response I got was really cool. It's like, it's like everyone, what's important to one person may not be important to others. So some people with their artwork do these wonderfully social things. You know, they throw a light on something that needs to be illuminated. Me, I'm just painting cars, but in another way, as these people reminded me, it was like, you know, this part is important to a lot of people. You know, their first kiss, their relationship with their, you know, dad working on a car on Saturday in the yard, or, you know, all of it. You know, it's different for everyone, and that's I guess what the important thing to take away from that is. Yeah, Simon, there you go. I'm glad. See, it's the truth. Yeah, Bobby, you go right to the Patreon website to sign up for that. So yeah, Patreon is a separate thing from everything. It's also nice because the support you give on. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm amazingly supportive of or appreciative of any support that comes through. However, if you're a Patreon member, a larger percentage of that goes to the artist, the person creating. YouTube takes a hefty chunk out of it, as does Facebook too. So Patreon is the most powerful way that you can that, you know, someone can support what I do. I mean, like I said, it all works. It definitely all works. Man, it's it. Yeah, Tim, you got it. So, you know, for me, I'll tell you, it was at Cambridge Art Association when I first kind of got into Cambridge art, and I was in a show, and I was really fortunate. I was in a show that's one of their national shows, and I was asked with a bunch of other artists if I would, you know, talk about my work. I think because my stuff was so weird compared to everyone else's, it was super tiny. In fact, that's how I was introduced. You know, the director had said, and this is our smallest piece we've ever had, which is fun and everything. But anyway, so I came in right after this artist. Like my talk was right after this artist who did these amazingly powerful, like deep, dark paintings of like women's struggle with mental health and abuse, and the paintings were like seriously like blew me away, like amazingly powerful. So then here's Steve with his tiny paintings of cars, and I felt really like, and I mentioned that, and that's when the feedback started, which is really nice. But I don't know. Like I said, we're all over the road today, kids. I don't know what to tell you. Sorry about that. I don't know. All right, again, I'm just painting, but hopefully you guys are seeing what's going on here. So what I did was, even though it looks black, again, that's an burnt umber black line around the outside edge. So that begins to set up really what the outside edge of this light will be. So from there, now that I've got that in there, then I jump back to the gray, and I just start pushing the two against each other. I paint the gray. If I go too wide on it, or if there's a bump that shouldn't be there, I go back to the umber and straighten that part out. If I screw that part up, I go back to the gray, and I just keep bouncing back and forth until I lean back and say, all right, hey, that looks good. And shocker of shockers, hey, that looks good. It is a shock because concentric circles and circles in perspective and all that fun stuff are easily the hardest thing to do for me. You know, wheels in perspective are always a challenge for me. So to get them pretty quick is a good thing. Oh, I'm not going to do that, actually. I have white in it, so I was going to put the highlight in, but then I wouldn't be able to see it. All right. So I'm going to jump back to that burnt umber again, since I knocked that out already. And I'm just going to spread that line out a little bit. Again, the tire is going to blend into this, so you're not even going to see it. I'm just giving myself a little bit of breathing room when I go to put the tire color in. There's a part of the suspension under here too, so I know I'm going over on that, but that'll be okay because I'll end up putting that back in when I paint the suspension. A little bit more black, and this is feeling a little too umber and not enough blumber. good. And again, this is just giving me breathing room, so when I cut out the template for the tire, when I get to that point, I won't have to worry about getting any underspray on this because I'll have a little bit of a buffer here, this brown line that I'm putting in right now. I don't always do this, but I've worked so hard on this headlight, making sure it's round, that I don't want to take a chance. Even a little bit of overspray is going to kind of crappy that up. And then if I get a little bit of overspray on that, then I got to go in and touch it up, and I got to fix it, and then we're back to square one with bouncing back and forth. So while I like working on these things, I don't want to work on the same part over and over again. That's not good. All right, so now we can use the white because I've got a better, I've got more thickness there, so now I can put that highlight back in on the edge of this. If I did this obviously before I did the brown, you wouldn't see it because it would be up against the white of the board here. And then again, I'd be just back and forth. Lovely. All right, I'm gonna turn you guys so you can see this head on because I think this is a good place to stop. Because dealing with, again, what I originally set out to do is I was going to do the, I'll turn this so it's straight on. Originally I was going to do this, you know, the actual headlight part of it, but we had fun. So, you know, and that's how these things go. I just end up moving around and not necessarily doing what I set out to do, but it's half the fun of the journey of painting like this. Focus that up. So yeah, that still needs a little bit of work. You guys are micro close now too, so you guys get to see all the funky stuff. But that's feeling pretty good. But hopefully you can see now. I would say that this side, you know, that this side over here, the actual housing is almost done. Like that, I'm okay with almost leaving that where it is. But you can see the difference between the detail in this now and the detail in the edge here. I got to get all that next. So that's what's going to be the job coming up. So I know this thing is, well, yeah, this glove has had it. It's just about there. And then, you know, I buy these things in bulk because I use them like, well, let me get this out of the way. We don't need this right now. Actually, let me totally get this out of the way because I don't want to ruin the plug. There we go. These gloves come in a package. Again, I hate to say this, but this is your favorite company. You know, what we were just talking about. These things are super inexpensive. They're just regular white cotton gloves. I started buying them not for painting, but for handling glass. So when I'm cutting glass, especially the UV glass, if you get any of your fingerprint oils on them, it's just like the reflection coating on glasses. You know, you grab a pair of glasses by the lenses, you leave that big fingerprint on them. It's the same thing with the museum glass too. So I started buying these gloves for that. But then, like I said, what I realized was they were good for art. But this was a white glove at one point. So it's almost time to, actually, I will do this right now with you guys. I'm retiring this glove. So thank you, glove. You were amazing. There we go. So what I do is these, like this one here was a glass glove. I want to use for glass, but you see it's starting to get dirty and it's got some rips in it. So what I'll do now is I'll just cut the fingers off this one. And now Tim sells actual gloves for this. So if you don't want to do the ghetto version like me, you can step up and get the real ones from Tim and be really happy. But now you also get a good sense of the scale of this. It's 3 inches by 4 inches, just like a 543, but it's obviously it's a different animal. What's nice about these paintings too that I love, and it was something that I didn't understand when I started getting into doing these really small scale paintings. If I do them right, you can read them from far away. So the camera you guys are looking at is probably about 2.5 feet away. So when this is done and framed, even from across the room, this little 3 inch by 4 inch painting, you'll be able to tell what it is. It's a car. And what I find is when I display these for real, like in shows or, you know, even on a wall, it can grab someone from far away, and then it just brings them closer and closer and closer until their nose is touching it. It's been one of the best parts about painting on this scale. Just a whole lot of fun. So there you go. I said, there you go. Let me switch over to, hold on, let me do a little bit of camera shenanigans so you guys don't get the full version of the palette cam when I switch this. Okay, that one. Yes. All right. Oh, we covered a lot of heavy duty stuff today. Thanks for hanging on with me for that. I know I kind of go off on tangents, but you guys started it, so I'll blame you guys. Tomorrow, again, if you are a Patreon member, you will get the link on that on the Patreon page for the next installment of Brad's Cutlass, Brad Mummery, who is just here. So that's going to happen tomorrow. And then Monday, it's Monday Night Live as usual. And I'll have all your favorites. Again, I can't stress enough, you guys are amazing. You know, you're back and forth, and I love when you guys have Tech Tuesday ideas. You can send them to me directly. That's the best way to do it so I don't miss it. And also comments on the Open Studio Plus. Oh, let me say that now too. I don't know if I mentioned this last week. This will be the final thing before we duck out. There is one schedule change that's coming up. I was going to do it as soon as I was done with the Harley painting, but I might do it at the end of the Harley painting just because this has been such an epically long painting to get done. What I'm going to start doing is there's a way to have a video be a premiere. And what that means is instead of just the video goes live, what will happen is it'll actually be, going live meaning it's posted and you can see it. You can actually set up your post so that it's kind of a live stream at the same time. It'll pop up, but then there's people can join and chat and do all kinds of stuff. So I think as I get going on the Open Studio, that all of the Open Studios will be premieres. What'll be nice about that is we'll all watch it together. So if you guys have comments or questions while the video is going, you'll be able to type them right in, and I'll be able to be right there and answer you, or we'll be able to talk about what's going on, or you can make fun of me like you should, because I forget to turn the microphone on like I did this week and next week. But all that's fun stuff. So what's going to happen with that, though, it's right now at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard is the launch time of all the Open Studio videos. I'm going to slide that up to later. It's going to be 7 p.m. on Wednesday. It's going to come in before Tim's feed, so it'll be nice. And it's only a half an hour, so it's a quick thing. And that's what I got. So that's the programming changes that are going on. And that's about it. So that's what I got. So I hope you guys all have a fantastic weekend. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. It's always fun to sling paint and solve the world's problems. I appreciate it. And I want you guys to have a good weekend, and I will catch you guys later. So speaking of all your Patreon and YouTube members, here they are. So thank you very much, you guys. You're the best.